We'll move on to the future of the man who finished second in the Golden Boot this season, only 1 goal shy of Jamie Vardy on 22. First of all, Layth, Aubameyang, how much would it mean if he did choose to stay at Arsenal?
Yeah. Sunday again proved what he means to Arsenal and his importance to Arsenal, the club, as a striker and as a talisman, and what he means to the fans as well. He's not getting younger. He is 31. So that any deal that they offer him has to be tempered with his age factors in, basically. But at the same time, if you're going to buy a Premier League striker who scores 22 league goals for you, how much would that cost in the open market today? If Arsenal were going to buy such a player, it would cost a lot of money. They have to factor that into the bid that they're going to, or the contract they're going to offer him, basically. It won't be Ozil wages, but it will be considerably more than, I think he's on around 220 at the moment. So it's going to go up. He's going to be well rewarded if he does sign, and if he does stay, Arteta will build the team around him. He'll be absolutely idolised by Arsenal fans everywhere, and hopefully there'll be a statue outside the Emirates one day if he carries on. But if he leaves, he'll be a footnote in Barcelona's history, and it will just be really, really disappointing. He'll just be another Robin van Persie for me. I love Robin van Persie at Arsenal. They looked after him for 7 or 8 years with injuries every year, and as soon as another team came in and he'd make some money, he left, basically. And I'm not saying Aubameyang's is mercenary, and anyone in that position would look to earn as much money as they can, but he's got to realise Arsenal are a special club. He's absolutely loved at Arsenal. He'd be idolised in a way that he won't be idolised if he goes to Barcelona. And that's got to be worth something, surely. And at 31, he's not short of a penny. Barcelona could offer him 300 grand a week. He'd probably go. But after a year's time, he wouldn't be in the first team starting 11. So what would he do then? So he's got to realise that if he stays at Arsenal, keeps his form, he's there for another 3 or 4 years. And he can do a lot of damage against Premier League clubs in 3 or 4 years, and do a lot of good for Arsenal as well. So I love him. I hope he stays. I like the photos in a new kit. Obviously, that was filmed in, or the photos were taken in January, February time, so we can't read too much into it. But there's got to be a decision from Arsenal now where they draw a line in the sand and say, look, here's our new contract, sign it or we'll sell you, because we can't have it dragging on by the time September the 12th rolls around.
Yeah. Serge, do you think, based on the fact that next season Arsenal probably won't be able to sign, as Layth says, a replacement, do you think Arsenal can, in any way, any stretch of the imagination, afford to lose Aubameyang?
Absolutely not. If you look at Arsenal without Aubameyang, if you took away his goals, we would sit right down at the foot of the table in the 18th position, because he's provided literally all of our winning goals. Lacazette had a stinker of a season for the vast majority of it. The other strikers are far too youthful to really take the mantle as the main striker. Aubameyang is, without a shadow of a doubt, the most important player after Bernd Leno in the Arsenal squad. We cannot afford to lose someone of that genuine quality. When the African Cup of Nations comes around, we're going to really feel the effects with him not being here. So we've got a real struggle on our hands if he does go. He's a player who deserves the Ozil money more than Ozil ever deserved the Ozil money. So hopefully they put the contract to him. I think his dad's quite an important factor into all of his contract signing. So I think because of the coronavirus impact with social distancing, he wasn't able to come over. So I think with that sort of reducing, hopefully they can come to a deal, because I think that would be a real kick up the arse for us if we lose him.
Yeah. I mean, Dan, do you think, considering Champions League's already out the window, do you think that, does his future at Arsenal lie in the FA Cup final if Arsenal can secure European football?
I think yes, but more in terms of a financial aspect. We've obviously talked a bit about the money, and I think having that little bit extra from having Europa League football would help them tie down Aubameyang. I'm completely convinced we need to keep him, but I do have my concerns in the fact that he's 31 now. He's what you'd probably describe as the wrong side of 30. And I think we have to be wary of making another Ozil-style mistake. So putting big money wages on a player who, let's be honest, is more on their way to decline because of their age. So you've got to think, do Arsenal factor in that risk, or do they just go ahead and keep the player because of the current form he's in? There's no telling that next season he might completely drop off and only score 10 goals. We can't predict that. But I think, as we said, based on current form and his impact, we probably would have got relegated without him, to be honest. So, yeah, I think we have to keep him for now, but I think they've got to be wary money-wise, again, not making the same kind of mistake that they made with Ozil.
I think one point to counter that is I think Aubameyang, since he's come to the Premier League, has really shown that which I didn't expect at all, that even he's a much more intelligent striker than his sort of FIFA card would suggest. You know, he's just brilliant pace in the Bundesliga. He just thrived on his pace. But he's come to the Premier League, and I think he's shown that without his pace, he would still be an excellent striker because he's got all the all-round ability. So I think as he ages, he will still be a big value to a club like Arsenal. But do you think, Layth, that it's almost too far-fetched almost to expect him to stay if a big club comes calling and Arsenal haven't got Champions League?
Yeah, it is a big draw, isn't it, the Champions League? And it's a big draw to play the Champions League in a new camp. You know, I'm just fed up with the fact that so many Arsenal players have made that well-trodden journey to the new camp and not realised their potential and not played as well as they did at Arsenal, basically. And you know, there's a litany of players. I think I did an article. I think I counted 7 players from Song and even going back to Overmars and Petit as well. There's so many players that have gone to the new camp because it's Barcelona. When they absolutely had established themselves at Arsenal, could have kicked on to the next level. Were loved by fans. Barcelona come calling. They take these great jewels away from our side that we've developed and nurtured and built up over the previous 2 or 3 seasons, and they take them and they just ruin them. And Aubameyang has got to realise that the same thing's going to happen to him. At 31, he has a poor season. He'll never play for him again, or he'll play once every 8 weeks or something, because he just won't be in the side, because they're the type of club, a global club that's got more money than most, that will just buy someone else. They'll discard him as quickly as a crisp packet or something. So he has got to realise he's onto a good thing at Arsenal. Arteta will build the side around him. He'll be an absolute talisman. He'll be a leader to the young players who absolutely love him anyway. Bukayo Saka was interviewed on Sky Sports on Saturday, and he spoke glowingly about the way Aubameyang just gives a bit of information and tips and advice and help. And he says he has a laugh with them as well. That's the type of character that we want, and that's the type of character we've got from Aubameyang. You're absolutely right. He offers so much more than just pure pace on the pitch, but he offers a lot off the pitch as well in terms of his character, despite the flash cars. And Arsenal do have to give him a better contract deal, but as you guys said, it can't be trapped into a straitjacket of a 4-year style Ozil deal where the money's going to break Arsenal again, basically. Certainly because he'll be 35 at the end of it. He'll probably try a lot harder than Ozil, but I don't know if he'll be earning that money in 4 years' time. It's a tough choice, basically, and I wouldn't want to make it, but Arsenal do have to do their best to sign him, basically.
I do think the one thing that will work in our favour is that he seems to have a really good relationship with Arteta. You know, Arteta seems to have a lot of trust in him. I mean, when he first came in as manager, he said he'd keep Aubameyang as captain. Aubameyang would be his captain. And Aubameyang seems to have, relished in that. He's working a lot harder than he used to. He's tracking back. He's working for the team. And obviously, he's still scoring at the rate which he was, which is really important. So I think, there is a good relationship between the two. And I think, if anyone can convince Aubameyang to stay at Arsenal, it will be Arteta.
Yeah, good point. It's like any place to work, anywhere, in any profession, let alone sport, let alone football. If your boss, your manager, whoever is pleased with you, you want to stay because you want to do well for him. You like the fact he rates you as well, and it's a good feeling all around. You're absolutely right to call that, because Arteta does love him, and I think Aubameyang loves Arteta back. That said, there's absolutely no sentiment in football, and if Barcelona came in with 400 grand, Aubameyang would be off tomorrow, but hopefully they won't. That's all we can hope for, basically.
Yeah, and there are additional things in Arsenal's favour. We know that he loves London, and we know that he enjoys playing for Arsenal.
Mind you, Barcelona's not a bad city, to be fair.
You're right, yeah.
Someone went there on their birthday a couple of years ago, Toby. I certainly went there last season and loved it again.
Yeah, true. It's not a bad option. But imagining that, I think there's a chance that they can keep him. But imagining that Arsenal do lose him this summer, do you think that, in the sense that Mason Greenwood has really shone at Man United with the absence of a world-class striker, especially when Rashford was injured earlier this season, do you think Martinelli getting a bit of room to breathe, Serge, would be a positive thing for his development and maybe almost fill the gap that Aubameyang is going to leave?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Martinelli was famously dubbed not very fast by our very own Layth. but he is fast, and I think that ability to use his
I said
speed.
he could be faster. Oh my God!
Shut up, mate.
Look at you, Layth.
Let's not be revisionist, Layth. You made the
You're just wrong. You're wrong.
Yeah.
Do not fly on this head.
Martinelli is an incredible talent. He's a raw talent, though. He hasn't got the finishing. Like you mentioned earlier about Aubameyang not using just his speed, but using his striker's intelligence. And that's something that Martinelli's yet to really grow and build upon. Because all the goals we've seen from him so far have used his blistering speed. So I think he's a brilliant prospect, but he's not refined enough to be leading the line for Arsenal.
Yeah. Dan, I mean, Martinelli hasn't seen maybe as much football as we would have liked this season. Do you think next season he will get a little bit more?
Well, I completely disagree with that statement. I think we all thought he'd be in the under-23s, and he's turned out to be a bit of a sensation. So yeah, I think he will get more football. I think we'll see him start a lot more. He's obviously had that injury over the past few months, which has ruled him out, which is a shame. But then you've got to think, if Aubameyang does go and Martinelli steps up as his replacement and scores, the same amount of goals or more or whatever, we're going to end up finding ourselves in the same situation as we have with Aubameyang, where because we always do. It happens time and time again where he'll run his contract down to one more year, and then, a big name club will come in and pay a lot of money for him. And it just seems to happen. We've got to find a way to stop that from happening.
Yeah. What I would say, I agree what you're saying. I think it's unfair to put all our hopes on a 19-year-old for next season. It'd be absolutely fantastic if he does amazingly well. But at the same time, the club has to be mindful that if Aubameyang does go, Martinelli cannot shoulder the burden himself. They still need to buy someone, regardless of Eddie being there and various other players looking to come through as well as obviously Lacazette too. If Aubameyang goes, Martinelli is a massive prospect, but we can't burden him with too much hope at the moment, basically.
I do wonder though. I think that's been the thinking for a long time. But this season, as I said, with Greenwood and a lot of players at Chelsea that have come through their academy and made their debuts this season, like Mason Mount's been massively relied upon. Do you think actually that maybe someone like Martinelli could step up?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think
it is.
Yeah, I think it is a case of necessity sometimes. Obviously, Chelsea with the transfer ban, Lampard's had his hand forced, but those young players have done magnificently, to be fair to Chelsea. I'd like some of them at Arsenal, to be fair, but they've done really well, and they've had no choice to do well because they're being picked because they can't sign anyone else. So there is a bit of that, and obviously, if as we said, if Aubameyang does go and Martinelli's thrust into the number 9 shirt or whatever he wants to wear, then there is a case of sink or swim, basically. But I just don't want to damage his burgeoning progress by giving him that full responsibility of leading a line for a Premier League team the next season at the age of 19, basically. It'd be great if he does it, and it'd be great if he scores a lot of goals. But again, as Dan said as well, if that happens, then who's going to come in for him? Barcelona, probably. One of the big giants in La Liga, Barcelona or Real Madrid, obviously. And it is a frustrating cycle. And I can understand certain players going like Fabregas because that was he's from Barcelona. But and obviously, if you're a Spanish speaker as well, you would be interested in going to a country where it's probably easier for you culturally. But at the same time, I want Martinelli to do so well. Arsenal have tied him down a long-term contract, so I don't think they have to worry at the moment. And it's a nice problem to worry about if he does score a lot of goals next season. But the crux of it is Aubameyang has to stay, and then all the other pieces fall into place. Aubameyang goes, we've got a whole new ball game, basically.
Yeah, Layth, you mentioned that necessity kind of thing that Chelsea have been left with as to playing youth. Do you not feel like we're in a similar situation though, especially this summer? We've talked about the lack of finances. I mean, I wrote a piece about Emil Smith Rowe today. Who's obviously coming back from loan and is someone we're a big fan of. And I personally think players like him are going to get more opportunities because we can't really fund a rebuild at the moment. It's clear we need 2 holding midfielders, 2 centre-backs and a second midfielder, possibly a winger. We're not going to have enough money to do that. So I feel like we're in the same kind of situation where we have that necessity to play youth. Do you not agree?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good point. And maybe it's the fact that over the last sort of decade and probably longer, Arsenal players who've been given that position or been thrust into that position haven't been mentally strong enough to shoulder that burden. And Martinelli's got all the talent in the world, and maybe I'm doing a massive disservice to him. You know, if you're coming over to another continent, halfway around the world, at the age of 18, thinking you're going to play for the under-23s, because I wrote about that last season, we all did. You know, he had a trial. Basically, pre-season was a trial for him to see whether he was going to be under-18s, under-21s, or under-23s, basically, and he ended up being a first-team regular. So that shows the character of the lad, and maybe I'm doing a disservice to him. Maybe he can go and shine next season, play every game, hopefully. But I just don't think that will happen. I hope it does, but he needs someone alongside him. I don't think Lacazette's the answer either. Certainly not if you're playing one up top and two out wide, because I think Aubameyang's been lost at times this season playing out on the left. He's effective, but I would love him to be centre forward, because I think we lose something when Lacazette's in the middle these days, which is unfortunate because I did like Lacazette, but he hasn't kicked on. Like you say, he's another player who just hasn't been as good as he can be, and it's just, again, it's a microcosm of our really disappointing season, basically, that we're saying that. So, to answer the question in a short answer, hopefully Martinelli can, you know, burden that responsibility. Hopefully he can score a lot of goals, and hopefully I'm doing a disservice by saying he won't be mentally strong enough to handle it.